Liverpool have beaten Everton 1-0 in the Merseyside derby. We're going to talk about all the key talking points. This one in a messy Merseyside derby with a bit of munching involved as well. Was this a sending off? Was the goal actually a fair goal? We'll have a look at the rules and break that down. And also a really interesting, I think, subtle note to this loud Merseyside derby was the role of Curtis Jones coming in for Trent. We've just done a video on the James Lawrence Allcott channel. Go check that out. Talking about 5 different ways that Liverpool could replace Trent with certain transfers. And one that this is a sort of bonus one here because we saw Liverpool play with Curtis Jones as a right back. And I thought it was so interesting. And in particular, what I found really interesting was the role of 2 players in particular, Gravenberch and Curtis Jones, who we've not really seen in that right back role. And we're going to talk about why this could work, but also why it might have just been really smart management from Arne Slot, understanding the game and the opponent and acting accordingly. I'm intrigued. We'll explain it. We'll go through it. And at the end of that, I want you guys to let me know, is this something that you would like to see more of when it comes to Curtis Jones in that role? Because there is one huge question mark. But really interesting elements to what Arne Slot was trying to do. And he spoke in his post-match interview about the amount of times Luis Diaz was able to get himself one-on-one against his opponent. Now, did it always work out? Maybe not. Because you've got a very, very tight, resolute back line from Everton here. This is kind of how they set up, and in particular how they set up with the ball. Very rarely did they look to come out and press in any way, shape or form, and that was obviously reflected in the stats because Liverpool wholeheartedly had the ball. 74% possession to 26%, 1.39 expected goals to 0.67. But interestingly, 2 big chances to 1 big chance. And just 5 shots for Everton there, in this game. Duncan Ferguson spoke about it and said that they were toothless. And they were, but more so in the second half than in the first half. I think in the first half, they actually had some moments which doesn't fit with the momentum button. It's like very clear cut. But as we say, there was a couple of moments, goal disallowed for Beto on an offside that was incredibly tight. Like, if I do my line, we just don't know, do we? We just don't know. But of course, it was given offside, so they wouldn't get it wrong, would they? But also a huge chance for him as well. But we have to start here. We have to start with the Tarkowski situation because you're not really doing justice to talking about the game if you don't talk about this because I think sometimes there's moments where you go, you can't articulate in time because it's all happening too quick, but you know what's about to happen. And Tarkowski started licking his lips. And this is the big thing, right? What we need to do is, I'm going to give my opinion on this because if he is sent off, then the game is even more defensive and probably far more comfortable for Liverpool. And they win 2-3-0, quite possibly. Tarkowski, a huge player, maybe put the possible red to one side for a second. He was one of the better players for Everton in this game in what was a very solid defensive situation where they made life overall quite difficult for Liverpool, as you saw from the big chances. But this is a terrible tackle. He knows what he's doing. You can kind of see the grimace on his face. It's one where you kind of like in a derby game, and we've seen, you've seen Gerrard do these. You've seen other players do this. And when you're hearing like Carragher and Duncan Ferguson going, oh, it's naughty, there is a bit of you that's like, wow, like glass houses. That said, if the referee had gone up to him and gone, red card, there's absolutely no way that it gets overturned. Because yes, he's got the ball, and the one thing that, got to say is that like this screenshot is after he's clearly got the ball. But again, I think that grimace on his face, you can't get away from that. He knows what he's doing. He knows that he's going to overextend because it's a free hit. And he's got away with it. He really, really has got away with it. Absolutely should be a red card. And generally, I've always been of the opinion of like, if you get the ball, that's fine. then the sort of if you get the man afterwards, that's okay. This is on another planet to that. So he should have been gone. It should have been a much harder task for Everton, but of course it was a hard task all the same. So obviously a definite red from that point of view. But it wasn't. So let's talk about the rest of the game, because this setup from Everton is pretty much how it looked for the rest of the game. And Salah was staying nice and wide. Diaz staying nice and wide as well, pinning them. Jota kind of working in either half space, generally playing as that central striker. Szoboszlai often coming over to this right-hand side as well to help out like he often does on that right-hand side. Gravenberch. Now his role and Curtis Jones's role I thought were really, really interesting, because with Kwanzaa in the League Cup final, what you had was Kwanzaa kind of here, Gravenberch chilling over here, Konaté sort of half helping him out a little bit, McAllister much higher, Virgil van Dijk, and it felt like a little bit more like a free with Gravenberch higher up here, Robertson here. And normally your fullbacks kind of stay pretty neat. That's how Arne Slot's teams work. But from the first minute, you saw Curtis Jones driving into these areas. And when we're talking about the profile of Curtis Jones, I think what I like about him, obviously, is that if you're thinking of replacing the Trent gap in some way, you've got a player who is very progressive, has great vision, is really press-proof, can dribble with the ball enough, and also he passes the ball, but he carries on. He'll always carry on his run once he makes that movement. And these deep runs was something that I think Arne Slot looked to employ from this area in particular a lot through the game. Because what it allowed for was Harrison would come with, let's say, Robertson. And what it meant was the wingers were then kind of isolated a little bit. Curtis Jones would go, Alcaraz might follow him, or Dressage would go over here and look to help out. Decore would step in, and it would give Salah a moment to try and get on the ball. But Curtis Jones was constantly making that run. And so when he is going to make that run, what are you going to do? Are you going to have Konaté shift round, or what are you going to do? What they did, which I thought was really, really interesting, and I'm intrigued to see if this happens moving forward, is it was actually Gravenberch who would come over, and just to clean it up a little bit, let's put it back. What he would do, let's take Szoboszlai a little bit, is it would create a very well-known thing for Liverpool fans, which is this sort of triangle between the three. And any of them could be in these places whenever they want. In particular, Gravenberch and Jones kind of shared that right-back role. Defensively, Gravenberch has got that recovery pace, very, strong. He's got the long arms that he can hold people off. Good on the ball as well. Always going to look forward. He's going to progress. But it was one where if Jones kind of made one run, then he would drop in. But then once it happened, those rotations would continue. And Gravenberch might step into this area here or step across. And that would allow him to come in. And then Szoboszlai to step in. And time and again, Gravenberch and Jones sort of shared this role. And it meant that these two, in Konaté and Van Dijk, didn't get taken over there. And it meant that they had that bit more positivity going forward. And I really liked it, both with the runs from Curtis Jones and from Gravenberch stepping in and just being absolutely safe in the idea that we don't need another defender here. That rest defence of Konaté and Van Dijk is enough. Let's work down the sides, especially against this Everton side, and kind of go from there. Let me show you some examples of exactly what I mean, because it was so kind of glaring from minute one, if I'm honest. This is in the 44th second. And what you can see is Gravenberch drifting over to that right-hand side, McAllister coming into a more central area, and Salah staying nice and wide, and Curtis Jones is here in the 44th second of the game. Should make them red. A bit prettier, isn't it? And actually, interestingly, as that progressed and the ball went into the box, you had 1, 2, Robertson doing exactly what we just spoken about in terms of driving in and allowing Luis Diaz to be one-on-one. Szoboszlai getting in the box, Jota getting in the box, Curtis Jones, there he is, and Salah at the back post. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 high and in the box looking to get at them. And Curtis Jones had that freedom throughout the game. This is 4 minutes into the game. I thought it was really, really interesting. Again, Curtis Jones high, just kept noticing it. He's driving with that run. That's not something you totally get from Trent. I don't think. I think he'd be the one who wants to be on the ball. So it's something a little bit different. Connor Bradley would make that driving run a lot of the time, or from the outside as well. And so with Curtis Jones here, this is my question to Liverpool fans. You've got a bit of a hybrid in terms of that right back position. Here he is again, initially starting here, but as the ball works its way round, what you start to see is that he's going to make this time he's going to make a curling run round the back. He's always passing and moving. It's a real strength of Curtis Jones. And you can see here he makes this run. Oh, this is another one where he comes through into that half channel. And it's again to sort of take away, to allow Salah to get on the ball. But once Salah does get on the ball, Curtis Jones is there if you want to play the ball into him. And this is something that, when Connor Bradley's out and Trent's out, and Kwanzaa's out as well, actually, I think he's in games that you feel like you're going to dominate, he's actually a better option. And as you can see, that driving run, those late runs that Arne Slot absolutely loves, that this team that is to a point strikerless has been built upon. I just thought it was really interesting to see him do that. And it worked. It really, really worked really, really well for the team. I do want to just find this one moment. This was the one question mark that I have with it. And I'll show you probably the best moment that it actually happened for Liverpool. This is the one. And then we'll go back to maybe the question mark when it comes to him in this role. So Curtis Jones gets the ball here. And where is Gravenberch? Gravenberch is right here. So you're kind of utilising stuff that we haven't really seen from Gravenberch in terms of him getting on that little bit more. McAllister sort of sitting in, and you've got that triangle of the three. Salah staying nice and wide. Curtis Jones plays, and he goes. That's the great thing about Curtis Jones, I noticed in this game, and he did it in any area of the pitch. He carries on his run, and so here now Gravenberch has to drop in to help out, to provide that little bit of safety. McAllister's knocking about as well, and those rotations are making life very, very difficult for Everton. We carry it on. And this time, it sort of rotates and works its way around. Salah's now made his move inside. Curtis Jones is on that right-hand side. But by having Gravenberch there, instead of, again, previously it would have been Kwanzaa, who just stays there, that triangle really, really worked. And it led to a really good cross from Gravenberch because he's looking forward. He's wanting to get... he's wanting to affect the game because he's an out-and-out midfielder, and it's a cracking cross into a great area, and it doesn't lead to a goal in the end, but I think they're all like good moments for the team. The thing that I question here is the sort of the team that you're playing against in Everton. And so this question for Everton fans now in terms of, was there an opportunity maybe to switch it about at some point? Like maybe in that first half when you're seeing that Gravenberch and Jones are essentially sort of doing that job as a pair. Could you have moved someone like Harrison over to the other side? Someone who's just got like that bit more pace, who's going to be a threat going the other way as well as... And I know Harrison had a poor game, he's had a poor season. But in terms of the profile, if you have got these players kind of working up the pitch and committing, and there is all that space in behind... There was this one instance that I thought was really, really glaring where I went, that's kind of the problem here for Everton. And maybe the reason why Arne Slot did what he did with Curtis Jones. And it might be one that in time he would be kind of nervous about it because we absolutely did not see Curtis Jones have to do any one-on-one defending. And I think Arne Slot knew that. He knew that with that 4, the breakaway from Everton was going to be through central areas, through Beto working his nuts off, which he absolutely did. Like, how can you not love him? And even in this instance, you can see him here. Let's have a blue one this time. You can see him right here, like looking to help. And so it's been a poor pass in this instance from Szoboszlai. And you can see him sort of going to press. And what I thought was really interesting here was Alcaraz. So Alcaraz's first thought is not to sort of get forward and to attack that space. In fact, it was to sort of drop and show. So instead, his natural thing was to move back instead of move forwards. And that made life difficult. When you've got that space that you can go and attack, it means that Beto was the guy who had to do that. And so once that happens, in terms of being a threat, your left winger is right here. And so in terms of having that outlet, it just makes life very difficult for someone like Beto, who, bless him, makes those runs. But once he gets the ball, he's got 3 players around him already, and it just completely shut it down. Throughout the game, there was absolutely nothing at all in wide areas, and 70% to 24%, you could kind of see that. And so maybe having someone like Iliman and Jai. Am I going to sneeze? There you go. Sorry, that was disgusting, wasn't it? But having Alcaraz, who I don't hate, but not being able to attack that space, I thought was a missed opportunity for David Moyes. In both areas, they were always really, really struggling. It was only going to be one where Decore, who I found, like, he's done a lot for the football club, but that performance from Decore was bizarre. I've got to be honest. But Beto, that said, Beto was causing havoc throughout the game. So much dominance from Liverpool, but Van Dijk and Konate, struggled to deal with the madness of Beto. Like, he was, that madness isn't fair. Like, he just works so hard. He's just got so much intensity, and it could have been pretty scary stuff. He has this moment, and the lead up into it is like a terrible pass from Decore, then quite a bad touch from Beto, and he's still able to kind of sneak through. Obviously, prior to that, you've had the goal that's disallowed, which I'm just going to take it as carte blanche that it was offside. But this one, these are the moments, Everton fans, and that's why I tweeted saying, Everton fans, how do you feel at half time? Are you sort of, are you relieved that you're playing against a Liverpool side that you're not expecting to beat, and you're holding your own? Obviously Tarkowski should have been sent off, but still, you could have had. But also, are you annoyed that one, you've got a goal disallowed, if you want to pick at that again, but also this chance, like, he opens up his body and then he tries to go in the other corner, and these are the decisions for all the effort that he put in. This is a massive, massive moment at 33 minutes that if you get that goal, then with the injustice of the sending off, like that, the ground could have been, it would have been electric. Like, it would have been frightening, like the second half, because there would have been a lot of anger going about. Let's talk about the goal, because even the goal, initially I have a sort of, leaves a bit of a bad taste in my mouth as a neutral, because I just feel like from a defensive point of view, what is he supposed to do? But these, thank you Sky, is the rule, and that's what I was waiting for. So offside, interfering with an opponent. A player will be penalised if they are preventing an opponent from playing or being able to play the ball by clearly obstructing the opponent's line of vision, or challenging an opponent for the ball, or clearly attempting to play a ball which is close when this action impacts on an opponent. Maybe we need to come back to that. Probably not. Or making an obvious action that clearly impacts the ability of the opponent to play the ball. And when you look at those letters of the law, and I think there's lots of rules, like, I don't even know what a handball rule is now at this stage. Do you know what I mean? But when you read that, you go, that all kind of makes sense. But this just shows the sort of how subjective football can be. Because I think when you see this, it does just feel a little bit cruel on Everton. And Tarkowski, and maybe that's the karma, isn't it? I'm just kind of twigging at myself, because obviously he's offside, right, from that point of view. And the pass is directly to him. But, and Tarkowski's like waving with his arm. There's a moment where Jared Brantwaite puts his arm up as well. And so when that pass is played, the movement is absolutely, you would think, is affected in some way by the fact that Luis Diaz is right by him. Because you can't just leave it to go out for a goal kick. That would just be like a bit mad. So from this point of view, it feels kind of cruel, because that pass wouldn't even be made. So in terms of like the action, the interference in play is actually kind of more on the fact that Gravenberch has played that pass because he's trying to find Luis Diaz. But this is football, things sort of swings and roundabouts of it all. The Tarkowski shouldn't even be on the pitch. So, although I think it does wholeheartedly have an impact, when you come back to the rules, Luis Diaz is not breaking any of those rules. And so you can't overturn it, in my opinion, even though it does feel a bit cruel. But again, Tarkowski shouldn't even be on the pitch. One thing that's kind of got lost but is important to add is that Jota, who I thought had a tough game in what is a very congested centre of the pitch, I think the goal is great awareness and close control from him, because you can see here that, and it is quite instinctive, I think, everything that he's doing here, because initially he's trying to just stay away from Gay, and he does just with that one touch. And then he has this little slalom that he goes on. And it was nice. It was like 1, 2. And I think because Branthwaite had his arm up, I don't think he was totally like down, jockeying, ready, switched on, locked in. And I think that led to him kind of being undone a little bit. But Jota, great feet, one little touch there. And then as Tarkowski comes in, one little touch over to the other side this time. And Jarrad Branthwaite, I think his body position's all over the place, because of what had happened before with him having his arm up. And then once he gets that one last yard, I think someone without that kind of composure is probably going to try and have a shot a second earlier. But I thought Jota did brilliantly. He does always have those really natural instincts and gets himself the goal. But coming back to what we were talking about before, Curtis Jones, there, waiting. Really, really interesting, his role. Because as I say, I think in this squad, and from aside from the one-on-one defending, which we've not seen yet, he has a lot of the attributes that I kind of really, really like. I was listening to Julian Lescott on Rio Ferdinand's podcast, and he was talking about he sort of changed his tone when it came to Curtis Jones. He was saying he's just a really, really exciting player, and I think you want to find that place for one of your own to be in the team. And I think a lot of the attributes in terms of being able to be inverted or being able to put in a great cross, to make that, have the stamina to make those lung bursting runs, those deep runs that create both space but also push back the defence as well, which is really, really important and something that Curtis Jones did time and again. He has the tenacity and the stamina and the quality on the ball. And he's someone who can kind of step in and become a midfielder, and when he's in those inverted moments from a defensive point of view, understand the lay of the land as well. So that, I thought, was quite eye-opening. Interesting game. But he's not the only option. There are 5 options on the James Allcott channel. Go check that out. Smash the like button if you enjoyed this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and we'll speak very soon. I'm sure of it. I am.